Now, Washington Mornings on the Mall. At AM 630. WMAL.
7:07 on WMAL, where Washington comes to talk. Brian Wilson, Brian Neiman, and on the line, as he is every week.
No matter where he is.
If he's in France, he's out there on the looking at eating French fries.
Right. On the Eastern Shore in California, no matter where he is.
He picks up the phone and he calls. Joe diGenova, our legal...
I love this radio station or what?
That's right. You are committed, and we appreciate that. All right, so earlier in this program, we were having a discussion about what happened in Benghazi. Now, aside from the tragedy there where the ambassador and three other, including two former Navy SEALs, lost their lives, 3 days after the fact, CNN is walking through the Benghazi compound, finds the ambassador's journal. They pick it up. They don't know what it is when they pick it up, but once they figure out what it is,
right.
Now you got a dilemma. Do you report on what you know? Do you just close it, hand it to authorities? Ultimately, they sent it back to the family, and they told the family, we're not going to report on it. But what they did was they took the information, confirmed it through sources, and then reported it, but never really explained that until much later in the process. Yeah. So I guess my question is, from a legal standpoint, what is their obligation once they realize what they have in their possession?
Well, that's an unclear. The answer to that is unclear. But here's what they have a duty to report. They're a news organization. They're not a counseling service. Their job is to report, and their duty to report gets greater when the narrative that the administration is putting out is false. They have a greater duty to report at that point. Their duty is not to protect the administration. Now, and they made a dichotomy. They reported information of public value about his view of a threat to himself. Right. They did not report anything about his private life that may have been in the journal, in the 7 pages of handwritten notes in this hardbound volume. But it also raises the issue, how was this laying there for 3 days? Where were the Americans?
That's a good question.
Where were our security people going through there to make sure? I mean, the issue, the CNN is a footnote. Why didn't our people get this journal?
How did they miss it? And, why wasn't the consulate secure in the first place? Especially if it's true, we believe what CNN has reported in the Journal of Ambassador Stevens is that he was worried about a rise in violence. Why wasn't there more of a security presence in Benghazi?
Well, part of the problem is also the ambassador himself. God rest his soul. He's a decent, honorable civil servant careers guy who should not have been killed. And it was a horrible death. All of the details surrounding his death have not been made public, and I hope they are not, because it's gruesome, according to people at the agency that I've spoken with. But here's the thing. He did not like security. He refused to have the regional security officers, who were 5 in number, who were assigned to him personally, go with him when he went places. This was a guy who loved Libya and who thought that Libya loved him, and he did not like security. And that aside, the security at the American mission and at the annex, which was, I think, a quarter of a mile away, was just very, very difficult, and it was bad, and it was insufficient to the demands there. And that's why the administration doesn't want to talk about this.
All right, but hold on. Let me ask you. I want to get you on this one thing about the diary. If you are covering a crime in the District of Columbia or any other major city in America, and you're a reporter and you stumble into evidence, and you take that evidence and you leave with it, you're going to be in jail pretty quick.
Well, that's a crime if you do that.
Yeah, well, okay, I know, but isn't indeed the U.S. consulate considered U.S. soil? Did not a murder occur there?
Yeah, but there apparently was no crime scene because it wasn't sealed.
Yeah, well, that's true.
I mean, this was not a crime scene in the classic sense. If it were, the diary never would have been discovered.
Right.
It would have been discovered by the authorities, which means the U.S. And, of course, the U.S. abandoned the site, and therefore the property was lost or abandoned. CNN did nothing wrong. If I were if I were the general counsel at CNN, I'd say, you report anything that affects public policy, you report nothing that affects his personal life.
I agree with you. They did nothing wrong, perhaps from a legal standpoint.
Right.
I'm not so sure from an ethical, journalistic standpoint they didn't make a mistake by coming clean about how they found out the information they found out.
That's bad reporting.
That's a different issue.
You're right. They reported it falsely about how they got access to the information. They should have said, exactly what happened. We found the diary, we looked at it, we got the information, we gave it to the Italians who gave it to the family, blah, blah, blah. They should have done that.
Been transparent, yes.
Yes.
Now, the State Department is obviously very upset with CNN, but, you know, what do your sources tell you about this, Joe? You're very well connected about this. Did the State Department not want to get, because they wanted to get their own version of the story out?
Yes.
That was very different from what has been reported since then by both CNN and CBS, by the way, on that.
These are crocodile tears and false outrage from Mr. Raines, Philip Raines, the State Department spokesman. No one has revealed personal items that were in the diary. What they did reveal was statements by the ambassador which were completely opposite of what the administration was saying publicly about the cause. There's nothing in that diary about the video being of concern to him, this phony video that was this trailer that was shown in the United States. Remember, from the beginning, the administration tried to lay all this at the feet of the video, along with their continuing apologia to the rest of the Muslim world. This had nothing to do with the video. This was a planned attack, according to the people that I spoke with last night, former agency people. Everybody knows this was a planned attack. It's fairly obvious by the manner in which it was carried out, and even Jay Carney had to admit the other day, it's obvious that this was a terrorist attack. They wanted to put out a narrative around 9/11 so that they could say that they had made peace with the Muslim world, and this was not an attack on the United States by Islamists. Well, of course, that's nonsense. Their reset button has been stolen by the bad guy.
Right. All right. I want to change subjects on you. The story we talked about last week, I don't know if you know the answer to this or not, but there's a not a taxi cab, a parking garage that has the ability, they say, to charge you for parking on a public street. Mm-hmm. And if you don't pay, they will write what they say is a citation, but it's really not a citation, because if you don't pay, you wind up going to a collection agency.
And it dings your credit record.
It dings your credit record. But it's a public street, but the parking garage has the ability to charge you for parking on that public street. Does this happen? You know?
As you know, I heard this, believe it or not, I listened to this story in Paris, and I thought it was a great story. I was fascinated by it. Here's the deal. The developer, whoever developed that particular piece of property, probably built, new streets and sidewalks and all that sort of stuff and new parking spaces. They can contract with the city to be an enforcer, not for criminal law purposes, but for collection purposes, and they will get a cut of the parking fees that they collect, just like they would. Now, as I understand, Colonial Parking
right, that's what
runs these sites. They have to have a contract with the city. So WMAL and its folks should ask the city for a copy of the contract with Colonial Parking, because the city has the right to do this. They can sublease their right to collect. They cannot sublease the right to prosecute. Only the government can do that. So what they've done is, this is a money-making operation, so they've privatized that street for collection purposes by means of a contract with Colonial Parking. And they can do that.
All right. It's always good to talk to you, Joe. Thanks very much.
It's not good public policy, but they can do it.
Yeah, right. Well, we're looking at the legal aspect of it. We're wondering if they could do it, and it sounds like they certainly can.
They found a way.
Unfortunately, they can. Thanks, guys. Great to be back in the U.S. of A.
Yeah,
glad to have you back.
I bet you want to go get a cheeseburger or something, don't you?
It's happening today.